Finish. Give Yourself the Gift of Done by Jon Acuff. Picture this. You impulse. Buy a moped. Ride it exactly 22 miles, and then it becomes a permanent garage fixture. Unregistered, untitled, just sitting there like a shrine to what could have been. Sounds oddly specific, right? But here's the thing. We've all got our own version of that moped. Maybe yours is the guitar leaning in the corner, wearing a coat of dust like a fashion statement. Or that online course you bought at 2 a.m. when you were feeling ambitious, now abandoned at Module 3. Those books stacked on your nightstand, still waiting for you to crack them past Chapter 2. Jon Acuff has a name for his garage. A mausoleum to almost. It's where telescopes go after 5 uses, fishing poles after 3, and a snowboard that's never even seen snow. We're all haunted by the ghosts of goals we gave up on. And for years, everyone's been shouting the same advice at us. Hustle harder, grind more, sleep is for the weak. The conventional wisdom says the hardest part is just starting. But what if we've been focusing on the wrong problem this whole time? Jon Acuff used to think fear was the enemy, the fear that keeps us frozen at the starting line. After writing books that lit a fire under millions of people to begin their journeys, he kept hearing the same confession whispered back to him. Starting isn't my problem. I've started 1,000 things. I just can't seem to finish any of them. So how do I actually finish? That question sent him down a rabbit hole, digging into the real reason we abandon ship. Turns out, it's not laziness. It's not a lack of discipline or willpower. It's something far more insidious. An invisible saboteur that promises us greatness but delivers nothing but frustration and guilt. That saboteur is perfectionism. In this summary of Finish, we're going to expose this hidden enemy for what it really is. By the time we're done here, you'll understand why a staggering 92% of New Year's resolutions crash and burn, and you'll have a completely counterintuitive, surprisingly playful roadmap for joining the elite 8% who actually cross the finish line. This isn't about white-knuckling your way through. It's about finally discovering how to give yourself the greatest gift imaginable. The gift of done. Let's start with a number that should make you stop and think. 92%. That's the failure rate for New Year's resolutions. Wrap your head around that for a second. Statistically speaking, you've got better odds of getting into Juilliard to become a professional ballerina than you do of keeping that promise you made to yourself on January 1st. We all know this sting intimately. The diet that lasted 3 days. The business plan gathering digital dust on your hard drive. The gym membership that became the world's most expensive keychain after Valentine's Day. Every abandoned goal is a broken promise to the one person you can never escape. Yourself. Break enough of those promises, and you start believing that quitting is just part of your DNA. For years, Jon Acuff thought the solution was simple. Just try harder. He chugged energy drinks, hired a life coach, and tried to grind his way across the finish line. The only thing he got out of it was a lovely, stress-induced eyelid twitch. Then, something unexpected happened. Science stepped in. A researcher named Mike Peasley from the University of Memphis decided to study over 850 people who took one of Jon's goal-setting courses. He wanted to figure out what separated the finishers from the quitters. What he discovered was mind-blowing. The people who succeeded weren't the ones gritting their teeth and trying harder. In fact, the strategies that dramatically boosted their success were the ones that took the pressure off. The less people aimed for perfection, the more they actually accomplished. This is the heart of Finish. The enemy was never a lack of effort. The enemy is perfectionism, and it fights a guerrilla war on multiple fronts. To win, we need to understand its tactics. The first and most devastating strike from perfectionism happens on what Jon calls the day after perfect. We all know the thrill of day one, the new running shoes, the Instagram-worthy healthy breakfast, the first 1,000 words flowing onto the page. We feel unstoppable, but perfection is fragile. By day 2, reality intrudes. We get swamped at work, we forget our meal-prepped lunch, or we hit snooze one too many times. And in that moment of imperfection, perfectionism whispers its first deadly lie. quit if it isn't perfect. We miss one workout and suddenly decide the entire week is toast. We tell ourselves we might as well demolish a pizza for dinner. Might as well is the surrender flag of goal setting. We treat our goals like houses of cards. One wobble and the whole thing collapses. We see that missed day not as a tiny bump in the road, but as a full-on train wreck. But here's the reality check. Nobody dies because you skipped a workout. Your goal isn't a train wreck. It's more like a bumper car ride. Some days you glide smoothly. Other days you get slammed sideways or stuck in a traffic jam of other cars. That's not failure. That's just how the ride works. The people who finish aren't the ones who never stumble. They're the ones who understand that the day after perfect is actually the most critical day of any goal. They develop immunity to imperfection. They throw out the all-or-nothing mindset and learn to move forward messily. The opposite of perfectionism isn't failure. The opposite of perfectionism is finished. Once you're ready for the day after perfect, you can go on offense. And the first move is so radical it feels almost illegal. You need to cut your goal in half. This flies in the face of every motivational poster you've ever seen. Dream big or go home, right? But perfectionism loves massive, audacious goals. It whispers its second lie. Your goal should be bigger. This is how someone who hasn't run a single mile convinces themselves they're going to run a marathon next month. Scientists have a term for this: the planning fallacy. We consistently and foolishly underestimate how much time and effort things actually take. In one study, college students predicted their senior theses would take 34 days. Reality? 56 days, nearly double. When we set impossibly large goals, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. If your goal is to lose 10 pounds and you only lose 8, perfectionism tells you that you failed by 2 pounds. But what if you cut that goal in half from the start? What if your goal was 5 pounds and you lost 8? Suddenly, you're not a failure. You're crushing it. You lost the exact same weight, but your entire experience is different. In Jon's research study, this was the most powerful technique of all. People who cut their goals in half increased their success rate by an average of 63%. They didn't just finish more often. They felt more motivated because they were winning. What if you can't cut a goal in half, like paying off $50,000 in debt? Then you double the timeline. Give yourself breathing room. The real choice isn't between finish perfectly and cut it in half. It's between quit because this is overwhelming and adjust it so I can actually finish. Cutting your goal is kryptonite for perfectionism. Now that you've got a reasonable goal, you face a new challenge: time. Where exactly is this time going to come from? This is where perfectionism drops its third lie. You can do it all. The uncomfortable truth is that you can't. To excel at one thing, you have to accept being mediocre at something else. When you add a new goal to your life, you're not just giving time to it, you're stealing that time from somewhere else, which means you need to strategically choose what to bomb. Jon tells this great story about his lawn when his kids were toddlers. It was a disaster zone, basically a laboratory for new species of weeds. But did he care? Not even a little. Why? Because with 2 tiny humans to keep alive, his only goal was surviving until bedtime. The lawn could wait. He chose to bomb the lawn. This is what author Josh Davis calls strategic incompetence. It's the art of deliberately deciding which things you'll suck at so you can be brilliant at the things that matter. Shonda Rhimes, the genius behind Grey's Anatomy, says that when she's in production mode, she doesn't feel guilty about skipping workouts. She's chosen to bomb fitness for that season. What can you bomb? For Jon, it was binge-watching trending shows, being on Snapchat, and responding to every email within 5 minutes. For you, it might be having a spotless house while you're launching your side hustle, or declining social invitations while you're training for that 5K. When you choose in advance what you're going to bomb, you strip away the shame. Instead of feeling guilty about dropping a ball, you can say, "Oh, that? Yeah, I put that down on purpose. So we've made our goal smaller and carved out time for it. But there's one more crucial ingredient, and it's the one perfectionism despises most. You have to make it fun. Perfectionism's fourth lie is that fun doesn't count. It insists that for a goal to be legitimate, it must be miserable. It has to feel like punishment. Blood, sweat, and tears are the only acceptable currencies of progress. A Zumba class isn't real exercise. Walking with a friend is too enjoyable to be worthwhile. Jon learned this lesson the hard way when he decided to master table tennis. Instead of just buying a table and playing with buddies, he hired a certified coach who made him run drills for hours in a college lobby without even using a table, while screaming, "Kill, kill, kill." He quit after 4 sessions, not because he hated table tennis, but because the joy had been completely sucked out of it. The science backs this up. Fun isn't a luxury, it's essential. The study showed that choosing a goal you genuinely enjoy increases your chances of success by 46%. You're almost 50% more likely to finish if you're having a good time. But how do you make something like paying off debt or losing weight fun? You need to understand what actually motivates you. For most of us, motivation comes in 2 flavors: reward motivation and fear motivation. Some people are motivated by rewards. They're drawn toward positive outcomes. The thought of fitting into those old jeans or having the freedom to splurge without checking their bank balance, that's what fuels them. For these folks, sprinkling small rewards throughout the journey, like buying those new ski boots after finishing the first draft, makes it enjoyable. Others are motivated by fear. They're not chasing a positive outcome. They're running from a negative one. The terror of their kids not affording college or working until they drop dead, that's what jolts them into action. For them, fun is the adrenaline rush of dodging disaster. One person even had his coach write a check that would be sent to his most hated political party if he didn't hit his goals. You need to know which key starts your engine. Are you pulling a victory toward you or pushing a catastrophe away? Once you know, you can engineer fun into any goal. But even with the best strategies, perfectionism has subtler tricks. When it can't destroy your goal with a direct attack, it tries to distract you. It does this through 2 clever illusions: hiding places and noble obstacles. A hiding place is a safe, easy task you do instead of your real goal. It creates the illusion of productivity while you're actually avoiding the hard work. Jon's hiding place was writing a fantasy basketball newsletter for an audience of 8 people. Why? Because it was way easier than writing a book. Another classic hiding place is organizing your email inbox. It feels like work, but it's an endless loop that keeps you from your true priorities. Even sneakier is the noble obstacle. This is a virtuous-sounding reason for why you can't work on your goal. It's a way to make your goal harder than it needs to be so you have a respectable excuse not to finish. Here's an example. A guy named Bill never cleans his garage. When his wife asks him to, he says, "Great idea, let's have a garage sale first." Sounds productive, right? But it's not. It transforms a 1-step goal, clean the garage, into a 16-step ordeal involving pricing, signs, and negotiating with strangers over a rusty bicycle. It's a noble obstacle designed to ensure the garage never gets cleaned. We do this constantly. I can't start my blog until I consult with a copyright attorney. I can't start working out until I find the absolutely perfect program. Finishers don't create noble obstacles. They simplify. They look for the easiest path forward. They ask themselves, could this be simpler? Could this be easier? The final, deepest battle against perfectionism happens in our own minds. It's the war against our secret rules. These are the invisible, impossible standards we carry around, often without even realizing it. They're like cuckoo birds, an invasive species that lays eggs in another bird's nest. The cuckoo hatches first and proceeds to kill the other baby birds, and the mother bird unknowingly raises the parasite that destroys her family. Our secret rules work the same way. They sneak into our thinking and murder our true potential. A business executive named Rob O'Neill lugged heavy leather suitcases through airports for months, convinced that using wheeled luggage was cheating. His secret rule was, for something to count, it has to be difficult. Another common one is, if it comes easily, it's not worth doing. This rule convinces us that our natural talents don't matter, forcing us to chase things we're terrible at. To defeat these rules, you first need to identify them. Ask yourself 4 questions. 1. Do I even like this? Are you chasing a goal you hate just because you think you're supposed to? 2. What's my real goal? Are you obsessing over a number on a scale when what you actually want is energy and confidence? 3. Does my method match who I am? Are you a social butterfly, trying to do a solo workout program instead of joining a fun group class? 4. Is it time to quit? Sometimes, finishing a goal you absolutely despise isn't a victory. It's a waste of your precious life. Winners don't never quit. They quit the right things. Once you've identified a secret rule, you destroy it by asking, who says? Who says success is bad? Who says you have to do this alone? Then you replace that broken rule with a new one based on truth. This brings us to the final stretch of any goal, the last mile, the day before done. You've fought off perfectionism at every turn, and now, with the finish line in sight, it makes one final desperate stand. It hurls 3 last fears at you. First is the fear of what comes next. You're not afraid of finishing your book. You're terrified of the criticism you'll get once it's published. Like the character in a Steinbeck novel who builds boats but never launches them because he's afraid of the ocean, you keep your work locked away because you're scared of what happens when it meets the world. Second is the fear that it won't be perfect. You get to the final episode of a TV show you love, and you just stop watching. Because what if the ending disappoints you? It's safer to leave it unfinished, perfect in your imagination, than to risk an unsatisfying reality. But here's the secret. The finish is never what you expect. It's often something different, and surprisingly better. Third is the fear of, what now? If this goal has been your entire identity, what will you do once it's over? This fear can be so paralyzing that it keeps you perpetually one step away from success. The day before done is terrifying, but you don't have to face it alone. The solution to all these fears is the same. Call a friend. An artist friend of Jon's would create beautiful pieces and then shred them right before completion, over and over. One day she casually mentioned this to a friend. His eyes went wide, and he said simply, "No more shredding." That was the day she stopped. We never outgrow our need for someone to believe in us. Finishing isn't about a flawless, perfect performance. It's about pushing back against the lies of perfectionism, embracing the messy reality of progress, and giving yourself permission to be done. Because while starting is exciting, the future belongs to finishers. What I find so refreshing about Jon Acuff's finish is that it gives us something we desperately need: permission. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to be human. For too long, the self-help world has hammered us with a single, exhausting message. You're not enough, and you need to grind yourself into dust to become worthy. This book is a compassionate rebellion against that toxic philosophy. The most transformative insight for me is the reframing of perfectionism itself. We often wear our perfectionism like a badge of honor. We think it means we have high standards. But finish exposes it for what it truly is: fear in disguise. It's armor we wear to protect ourselves from potential failure, criticism, and disappointment. It's the voice that says better to get a 0 by not trying than a 50 by trying and failing. When you see it this way, you realize that letting go of perfectionism isn't about lowering your standards. It's about raising your courage. The practical advice in this book is wonderfully simple and immediately actionable. You can walk away from this summary and implement these ideas today. So let's do exactly that. Here are a few simple actions you can take. 1. Perform a goal autopsy. Think of one goal you started but never finished. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just get curious. Was the goal too ambitious from the start? Did you quit on the day after perfect? Did you have a secret rule sabotaging you? Understanding why you quit in the past is the first step to finishing in the future. 2. Pick one goal and cut it in half. Don't wait for next year or next month. Choose something small you want to accomplish in the next 30 days. Want to read 4 books? Change it to 2. Want to work out 3 times a week? Make it once and count a 20-minute walk. Experience the surprising power of an early win. 3. Make it fun. Take that one smaller goal and ask yourself the question perfectionism never allows: how could this be more enjoyable? Can you listen to your favorite podcast while decluttering? Can you reward yourself with a movie night after finishing that tough project? Can you turn a boring task into a game? Inject your goal with joy, because fun isn't a distraction from the work. It's the fuel for it. Finish is more than a productivity book. It's a book about grace. It's about learning to be kind to yourself on the messy, imperfect, and beautiful journey of bringing something meaningful into the world. It's about finally silencing the harsh critic in your head so you can hear the quiet, steady voice of your own progress. That was a summary of Finish, Give Yourself the Gift of Done by Jon Acuff. We've explored the core principles today, but here's the truth. A summary is like looking at a postcard of the Grand Canyon. It gives you the basic idea, but it can't replace the feeling of standing on the edge yourself. The real magic happens when you read the actual book. It's in those quiet moments when one of Jon's hilarious stories, or a simple phrase, connects with something deep inside you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is a map, designed to show you the terrain and help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I'd encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely shift the way you see yourself and your goals. Also, if you found this exploration valuable, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another transformative book. Let's keep exploring, learning, and growing together.